Rise to the top with Valor Energy and their new partnership with the Professional Fighters League, fueling champions inside and outside the smart cage. Valor's nitrogen-infused orange cream and blueberry tart delivers a smooth, creamy flavor with 175 milligrams of natural caffeine to fuel your day. Rise to the top. Grab your Valor Energy drink today. Available on Amazon. Welcome to the show.
He practiced that several times, people.
No, I've never read that before. It's the first time I've read it aloud. Welcome to the show. Check the kick, Sherdog.com. I want to start all of my shows this way. Dayne, you've been here plenty of times, but I'm happy you're back. We're here to talk about some old and some new MMA. How have you been since the last time I talked to you?
Been good. No major life catastrophes or anything like that. Just kind of been smooth sailing. How about yourself?
Same thing. Besides the Valor Energy ad read there, that was a pretty intense moment. I haven't had too many shaky moments since the last time I spoke with you. Dude, we had some pretty cool fights this past weekend. They were on in kind of early morning for me. I know you're Mountain Time, so you're 1 hour earlier than me even.
Mm-hmm.
And did you watch them? Did you get up and watch Saudi?
I got up and watched them. So I was up. For me, it was 7 o'clock. But yeah, I caught them all.
I got up for the main card and watched the whole main card, and then I went back and watched like the Gaziev knockout. Like that was interesting. I listened to a couple recaps actually before I went back and watched the Jasudavicius fight against Mayra Bueno Silva, and Mayra Bueno Silva looked. We're not going to talk about this fight, but a lot of people were like, Jasudavicius kind of whipped her up, and she kind of did, but also like Mayra Bueno Silva definitely like looked like she didn't want to be in that fight, but she also was like she landed a lot on Jasudavicius. I kind of want to. I don't know. I feel like I got sold wolf tickets listening to a couple recaps before I watched that fight back.
Jasmine looked good, but honestly, I think more than anything, there's a reason why Bueno Silva moved up to 135 in the first place, and I just don't think that she takes the weight cut very well to remain effective into a fight late at 125, and that's where Jasmine thrives. Anyway, like you said, we're not talking about that.
Yeah, we're not talking about that. But one question: how do you pop for PEDs and then USADA disappears and then you go down a weight class and look worse? It's like this is your time to shine, Mayra Bueno Silva. You're my draft pick for the 2023 Sherdog draft. I did not pick you for 2025 actually. Yeah, I didn't pick you for those reasons. And now I'm confused on the years we've done this. I know we've done 2 of them. This is just an incredible way to start the show. First segment of the show, out with the old. We're going to talk about the main event. We're going to talk about a big star that has kind of on a pretty bad losing streak. We had Israel Adesanya get finished in the second round by TKO. Nassourdine Imavov went in there and had a pretty close first round with Izzy. Even though Izzy did outwork him, he landed a better shot in that round, that kind of shovel hooking uppercut, and then went to stop him in the second round with just a beautiful combination. I didn't talk to you before this. Were you surprised by this?
No.
Do you think Israel has significantly declined, or do you think the last 4 people he fought are significantly better than Paulo Costa, Jared Cannonier, Marvin Vettori? I know that was a long-winded question.
It's
both?
It's a perfectly fine question, and that's what I was about to say. It's both. Like Izzy has definitely declined some, but I don't think that he's declined to the point where he's completely washed. You know, I've been hearing some people say, "Oh, maybe he should retire," or something like that. And if he is content just continuing to fight, pick up a few more names under his belt for his legacy or whatever without becoming a champion again, then by all means, I say it's his prerogative to keep going, because there's definitely fights out there that he can win, and they would be fairly high profile. I'm not saying they would be for the title, but at the same time, this isn't me crapping on Izzy's legacy by any means. You can only beat who's placed in front of you, and at the time,
1,000%.
It was Costa, it was who else did you say? Vittori and Cannonier. I think Cannonier was the best of those three, but I also felt like he kind of got stage fright in that contest and didn't put forth his best foot. And at this point, he's 41, I think, actually. Regardless, Izzy got a little bit lucky with that. And I think that the current crop that's circling around the top are better than those that Izzy did beat. And it's just a combination of things.
It's tough because I'm looking at Izzy's record right now, and his first fight in the UFC where he knocked out Rob Wilkinson. Wilkinson actually went to go on and do really cool things for the Professional
PFL.
Fighters League.
Mm-hmm.
He also popped for steroids, but I don't think you can do that in the PFL anymore, which is great. After that, he had that splitty over Marvin Vittori. He beat Brad Tavares.
Mm-hmm.
He beat Derek Brunson. That Derek Brunson knockout was awesome. That's what kind of got him the Anderson Silva fight. After that, he went to absolute war with Kelvin Gastelum. Then he knocked out Robert Whittaker. That, to me personally, that was the peak of Izzy's. I think that's good. That's the peak of his career. I don't even think it's coming back and getting that win over Alex Pereira. I think his best two back-to-back, really his best three wins were that Anderson Silva, Kelvin Gastelum, and Robert Whittaker. As far as when I say best wins, Anderson Silva in that moment really wasn't a great win, and Anderson Silva is like my favorite fighter. And same with the Kelvin Gastelum, but the Robert Whittaker win in that moment, but more based out of performance. Like he was clicking on all cylinders. And I also do believe that, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but like DDP today, Sean Strickland today, and Nassourdine Imavov are probably better than all three of those guys in those moments as well. Like just better fighters. So I think Izzy's problem is really the division is catching up to him, and he's fighting people that can exploit things that have kind of always been there.
No, that's very true. Like, I think something that MMA fans tend to forget is when George St. Pierre retired the first time, just how worn out he seemed. He did not want to be champion anymore. He was happy to say, okay, I'm glad I beat you, Hendricks, but here's the belt, basically. I'm done. Because
he's like, you kicked my ass, man. I might have won this fight, but you kicked my ass.
Exactly.
I'm done here.
But it wasn't just that fight, though. You could tell that there was a lot weighing on him.
Totally.
And heavy is the head that wears the crown, 100%. GSP had people gunning for him for years. He had a target on his back, and it's one thing when you've got you've got everybody game planning for you, and then they can go back and watch what did and didn't work.
Yep.
It's another thing when you have to continually change your opponent that you're game planning for. Yep. And everybody's been game planning for Izzy for a while. They've been able to figure out, okay, so-and-so had success with this, so-and-so did not have success with that. And they can tailor their game plans to make that work. And the other thing with Izzy, yes, he had a rapid rise up in MMA, but he had a long kickboxing career too. He took a lot of damage in that. And I think that his chin's kind of starting to go because of that as well.
I definitely think that he's not absorbing damage the way he used to absorb damage.
Look at the Gastelum fight, like you said, man, that was a war.
Even in the Yoel Romero fight, like he got caught with that one huge overhand and got wobbled and buzzed real bad. If that shot hit him today, he'd probably have a similar reaction to the way he did in the Nassourdine Imavov fight. I do think another big problem with Izzy, though, is, and I don't know if you were active in the scoring chat this past weekend, but literally between the first and second round, I put into the chat, Izzy's boxing defense has never gotten better. It's super suspect, and he's just going to continue to pay for it. And then 45 seconds later, I am watching Nassourdine Imavov hit him with that big left shovel hook to finish him up against the cage, and then hit him with a flurry of ground and pound.
Yep.
It's even in this fight in the first round where they both threw those combinations against each other. Nassourdine, neither one of them really landed clean. But Izzy's got the real tendency. He'll lean way back. He closed his eyes and he'll throw combinations with his eyes closed.
Mm-hmm.
Like even in this fight, even in the first Robert Whittaker fight, like you can go watch the tape back and you'll see him. He'll just lean way back and just throw two big hooks. And usually he is on enough where he's warmed up in the back and he knows his range and he knows where he can touch you, and he's just kind of leaning out of the way. But if you lose a hair of speed, and now you've got guys know your tendencies, like you said, via all of the tape study. They're just, the more you fight, the more there's an encyclopedia built on you. And when you are someone like Israel Adesanya that relies on a lot of head movement, that use their athleticism and physicality to kind of break the rules, people get it just leaves the door open for people to just find ways. And it's not like, I'm just going to use Khabib for example. Like, you can watch all the tape on the world on Khabib, but there's certain things that are like impossible to prevent. But
with Khabib in particular, yes.
but like with Izzy and you're in a boxing defense deficiency, like the only way to prevent that is for you to just clean that up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't stance switch in front of people with your hands down. Like, he got clobbered with that overhand for doing that. And it's why Sean Strickland buzzed him against the cage. He threw a big looping hook and Sean Strickland went straight down the middle and, clobbered him for it. It's the same way that DDP crushed him on the back foot and, kind of clubbing subbed him. I do also think you're onto something with the damage accrued. Like the Kelvin Gastelum fight, the two bouts with Alex Pereira, the Sean Strickland, the DDP, not to mention all the other fights. Jared Cannonier is a hell of a puncher too, man. And he landed on Izzy in that fight, and we've seen Cannonier kill fools. How did you think Nassourdine performed, and how do you feel about his future as a contender? And who do you think he should fight next?
Nassourdine's a tough one. I don't think he was at the top of his game. Now, this isn't me crapping on Izzy by any means, but I think for that first round, Imavov was a little bit in awe of Israel, because at this point, Israel is a legit legend within MMA. He's got the resume that it's like, oh wow, I'm in the cage with this guy. And Imavov did not look to be himself that first round. And maybe I'm out misstepping here. Maybe it was just that he was facing somebody who was actually longer than him, because Imavov is very similar to Adesanya in the sense that he's used to being the bigger and longer guy. Maybe that's what was throwing him off. But I think that he had confidence that all I need to do is land one big one. And he landed that in the first round. And I think that was all that he needed to more or less say that I got this, give him the confidence that he needed. Because that first round, I don't think he was performing up to his abilities. Adesanya was doing what he wanted for the most part. That shot lands at the end of the first round. And I think that was the turning point 100%. Just he had the confidence he could do it.
Izzy's game in this fight, and in a lot of fights, is he does a lot of work. It's a picking, poking, prodding thing, and then once it's like being bitten by an ant pile, and then eventually you just get so mad you start stomping on the whole ant pile, like you just want to get one back. And that's kind of how his style is. And then he used to catch people slipping because he had pretty decent counter punching. But he throws a lot of array of attacks. So like he's really good at getting up on the points on his opponents. And that's still something I think he can do. But in this fight, like he was racking up points on
Yes, he
Imavov,
was.
but this, like you said, the second Imavov was like, oh, I can punch with him. I'm a little bit slicker than him here. And he hit me and he didn't really, I was in no trouble. I survived. Yep. They had that one exchange in the pocket where Izzy was up against the cage. He survived an exchange in the pocket, and then he blasted him after that, and then probably realized, hey, I can go hurt this guy. Like, let me just force an exchange in the pocket. And Nassourdine is more tidy. He's just a more tidy boxer. Does he have more tools as a kickboxer than Israel Adesanya? No. But he didn't need him. I really liked Izzy's takedown defense in the first round. I really liked Nassourdine continuing to go for them just to, the more offense you put in front of someone, the more you're causing them to think. Yep. Izzy has more striking tools and more of an array of offense, but I think that was Nassourdine's kind of way to match him with just the offensive output. Like, hey, you're going to throw a bunch of weird kicks at me, but like, I'm just going to go chase takedowns and punch you hard. Let's see what wins. It's really hard for me to know how much this win is going to end up weighing for Imavov, because Izzy could fight Hobocop in like 5 or 6 months and really want to get one back and also get absolutely. So I don't know. Are you convinced that this makes Imavov the number one contender after Khamzat? Like, do you think he could win a world title?
He could. He's slicker than Duplessis. And I think that he's learned a lot since
clearly it's hard enough.
Lost to Strickland. Oh yeah, no, and I think he's learned a lot since he lost to Strickland. He's definitely a better fighter from when they fought 2 years ago. And to be honest with you, like, I think that this victory actually gives the UFC a good problem to have.
Totally.
With obviously, I think Khamzat is who they are going to go with, but it's not a guarantee. Like, if the UFC's smart, what they do is they book Imavov either on the same card as Khamzat and whoever the hell emerges from this weekend, and they can book Imavov against, we'll say, Caio Borralho.
Yep.
And should either Khamzat or future champion, whoever that might be, ends up pulling out, you can slide Imavov in there with Khamzat. You've got or the champion, whoever pulls out, he fills in for them, so he can either fight for the title or the interim title or whatever, and you've got yourself a decent replacement there. So it's a good problem to have.
It totally is. With Khamzat, man, the UFC's biggest mistake was making him way too famous and way too rich before he became a champion. Because like he just got like a ton of opportunities, made a ton. I mean, deserving. I think Khamzat deserves all the attention that he gets. But he's not on that like I'll fight you every week mission anymore, because like I'm living in like a walk-in closet. He's significantly more wealthy now, so he's kind of like, I live in the UAE. He's like got all these ties with like princes and shit. Like he's kings and shit over there. Don't ask me how. I don't want to talk about that. I don't know how. But Khamzat is like, he's not a liability like Conor McGregor spitting on people and stuff for saying Khabib.
No, not in that sense.
He's not a liability like that. He's actually really seemed to calm down, Khamzat, but like I still don't trust Khamzat 1,000,000%. Like I would trust Imavov to probably show up to a fight before Khamzat.
If Imavov were to win the title, I would expect him to show up and regularly defend. I don't know if Khamzat would do that.
No,
I could see him being a prima donna with that.
Yep. If Khamzat becomes a world champion, we're getting a one fight a year. If Nassourdine becomes a world champion, we're probably getting 2 or 3. Nassourdine's 28.
Yeah,
which is awesome. Middleweight's like used to be the old dude division, and it's like the young dude division again. Like Sean Strickland is like the older guy, and he's not even that, not from middleweight
No.
standards. He's not that old. I think Kyle Bahayo, I think Imavov should fight his next fight. If he doesn't fight his next fight for a title, he needs to demand that he only fights in Paris, and he needs to demand money that's worth him potentially risking a title fight. This is my opinion. I think if I were him, he could totally wait for a title shot. Waiting isn't the best thing, but what he can do is say, hey, UFC, I know you guys love coming to France. Screw Benoit Saint Denis, screw Sirogan. I'm your guy. I'm the best dude in that. I'm the best dude from France. Like, get me a main event against Kyle Bahayo in there on a fight night, and pay me for it. Moving on, down to the co-main event of UFC Saudi. We had Sharabutdin taking on Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page wins a unanimous decision, 2 29-28 and a 30-27, I believe. I picked Shara Magomedov going into this fight. I did pick Nassourdine to beat Israel. This is just after like 3 minutes, I was like, dude, I talked in my preview. I don't know if you listened to it. I talked up MVP a ton. I talked about his style, and I was like, I think Shara Magomedov just going to press forward and force him against the cage and throw just out volume. Yeah, I should have known better. This was like the most MVP ass fight ever. I liked it.
Oh yeah.
I don't mind MVP. I used to hate him. I just thought it was really disrespectful, the Pokeball thing. Like, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, but I'm over it now. And I think MVP's cool as fuck. I like his style. He's like, he kind of is as just as corny as Izzy with all like the anime shit and the little like, I'm the captain now stuff. But at least he's got a little more, swag to him, in my opinion. He's kind of old. He's at 185. He's talking about 170. What did you think about his win and his performance?
Well, first of all, I got to say, I was kind of with you with regards to Page. Like, for a long time, I'm just like, this guy bugs the hell out of me. But then he actually started, but then he actually started facing some legit competition. Didn't always win. When he faced the best of the best, he did come up short. But at the same time, you've got to respect what he does, because nobody else replicates the way that he fights. I mean,
no.
Yeah, he's an outfighter, but he is an outfighter in the sense, like I said, nobody else does what he does. And I don't think that they can. Now, it doesn't make him the best fighter of all time, but it makes him an anomaly that it's like, you know what? We got to enjoy this guy while he's here. And given that is he 37 or 30? I can't remember exactly.
I think he's 37.
Yeah.
But I think he's turning 38 in April.
Exactly.
Could be totally wrong.
The point is, enjoy him while we've got him, because you're not going to find there might be another person who can do the same type of crap, but
no.
I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Well, no, that's my point. There's nobody that we know of that's going to do it anytime soon. I
could do MVP shit. I could do what he does. I would also get knocked the fuck out.
Exactly. That's the point, though. That's
like,
but yeah, no,
he should have gotten knocked the fuck out. Like, he should be like a 50-50 fighter with one win and one loss with his style. Like, his style should not work for MMA. Quite frankly, like, we had Terrence McKinney on this card, and they do not have this a similar style, but like, Terrence McKinney's game, I love Terrence McKinney, and it works 60% of the time. And the other 40% of the time, it doesn't, and it doesn't bad. That's how MVP's record should look. His record should look a lot more like a Terrence McKinney, just with his style. His, like, he's the only dude that I know that he only outfights or he only fights you all the way in. Like,
that's a good way to put it.
his ability to leap into the pocket and hit you with an elbow, a straight right, or a jump knee. It's just he throws this wild variety. He has this like wild feinting game, and the second you bite on a feint, you may get hit with a crazy jump knee, or you may just get hit with a straight right hand down the pike, or you might just get hit with a big elbow. And then what he does is the second he hits you with something, he'll tie you up, and then he starts using like Thai foot sweeps.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you are trying to wrestle from that position, you get hit with something and he's so fast, and then he gets the underhooks and he'll kind of try to sweep you out and then cut an angle, and you're like stumbling over in a weird way. Like he's got such an ability to just make his game work and then shut people down.
Yeah.
And that's the hitch of his game, in my opinion. It's not only the ability to make his game work, but it's also using his game to shut down his opponent's game. Because Shara didn't land a single head strike to the third round.
Yeah.
Like, you can't win a fight like that.
Oh, and beyond that, you could go back to his fight with Kevin Holland. Even when Holland's losing, he looks like he's having some fun in there. He did not have any fun against Page. He did not, he looked just frustrated the whole time. And Holland he's basically our resident goofball in the UFC. He really doesn't take much serious. So
to a fault.
The fact that, yeah, exactly. So the fact that Page was able to do that to him, that speaks volumes. Page, and people. I don't know how many of these people have been following Page for a long time, given that he came up in Bellator. And I understand where people are coming from if they don't pay attention to things outside of the UFC, given the fact that, hey, people have lives. It's hard to pay attention to everything all at once. But Page has some of the most spectacular knockouts in Bellator history, to the point where he literally caved in a guy's skull, Evangelista Santos, and you can still see the dent in the guy's head to this day.
Dude, yeah, like his head looks like a picture of the moon. Like
no, exactly. It's cratered.
It looks like, you ever go to an ice cream shop and they open it up and it's brand new and they get the scooper and they scoop out your ice cream. That's
a good way to put it. Yes.
Like, yeah. It looks like someone took an ice cream scooper and just went. But it's not. MVP doesn't just knock people dead. Like, he actually hurts them physically. Not like, oh, they're stunned, he's hurt. Like, no, like he's kicking people's knees and making their knees just like explode. He's cracking their skulls. He's breaking jaw. Like he's fucking dudes up. He's almost 38. He's a huge star. He said he wants to go back to welterweight, which honestly, I don't care what MVP does, because I'm just going to watch him fight at this point anyway, because anything, he's literally an old dog, and any time we have with him is a gift,
yeah.
At this point. Next opponent, if he's going to go to welterweight, I think he should fight like Joaquin Buckley. I know Joaquin Buckley's like super high ranked, but MVP is a big name, and I think a win over MVP would mean the same to the UFC matchmakers as a win over Sean Brady.
A win over MVP got Ian Machado Gary a title eliminator, so it does mean something. Yeah.
You go out there, if you're Joaquin Buckley and you go out there and you knock MVP out because Joaquin Buckley thinks he can knock MVP out.
No, I agree. I'm trying. Honestly, the reason why I'm pausing is I'm trying to think if there's a fight that I like better than that, and I really don't think there is. Like, my first instinct was maybe somebody like Carlos Praches, who more or less stalks his opponents down, and for me, it's just like, let's see you stalk this guy down. But I think Buckley's probably a little bit more apropos.
I also think if Buckley loses to MVP, it looks not terrible.
True.
And I don't think it would, I think if Buckley beat MVP, he'd knock him out. And I think if MVP beat Buckley, would kind of not look as bad as a Shara fight. He would go for it. Like, he'd have way more moments. So I don't think it would look bad for Buckley. If he stays at 185, like, that's where you just do like all the fun fights against dudes that will not wrestle you. And there's plenty of
Yeah. You're not giving him Fluffy.
No, fuck no. Or even Brendan Allen or like, yeah, you know, keep him away from those dudes. But really cool fight. Shara Bullet.
Do you think Shara's overrated?
Oh yeah. I mean, not by me, but by the UFC.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. No,
I don't have the UFC rankings pulled up or any rankings at all, but like, I can think of several dudes that should, like, would Jacob Malkoun beat Shara Bullet in an MMA fight if they fought tomorrow? Probably.
Yeah. There's several people that the UFC don't have ranked that I would have.
Like the Iron Turtle. Is the Iron Turtle not beating him? Come on, Jung Young Park.
Hobo Cop.
Hobo Cop would crush him.
Joe Piper.
Yeah. Bo Nickel.
Is Roman? Well, yeah.
Popolov would fuck him up. Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, like dude,
exactly.
Okay.
I mean, he's fun. He's fun to watch. You know that
the gimmick got him the ranking, man. The gimmick 100%. Got him the ranking.
But you know, he's lucky, and this sounds weird to say, but he's lucky that he's got visa issues, and that limits him to the Middle East, and the Middle East crowd loves him. So the UFC has been matching him up favorably to give the Middle East crowd what they want. This is not me saying that he's complete trash, but I think that he's gone about as high as he can. And if the UFC wants to continue to maximize him, they'll continue to give him favorable matchups. And I don't blame them if they do. But yeah, I think that Page very much exposed him.
Don't be surprised if, I know these guys are not on the roster, but if he fights a Dolce Logambula type of, you know, level dude in his next bout, that's kind of where I think he's going to go. The next dude he fights is going to be on a 2-fight losing streak.
Well, the other thing that you got to question, you know, this was his first career loss. He had the 0 taken away. For some guys, that's devastating for them. That just shatters their confidence. Is that going to be the same deal with Shara? I don't know. You know, we could only speculate, but I think that he's one of those that could be affected by that.
I would say you're probably not a confident guy if you are a professional fighter. You pick a fight with someone in a mall, then you kind of lose, and then you have to wait and sucker punch them. But that's neither here nor there.
That was kind of where my thoughts were when I said that I think he'd be one of those. But anyway,
yeah, it's hard for me to it's hard for me to like someone when I know that about you.
Well, if that's the case, he's going to keep his eye on you.
Focused. That kind of wraps up the UFC Saudi card. There were some pretty good fights on the undercard. Like we talked about Terrence McKinney, Vinicius Oliveira, and Said Nurmagomedov. They had a pretty good fight. But I think possibly the best fight on the whole weekend was in boxing. We had the Battle of the Davids. David Benavidez taking on David Morrell. David Morrell, kind of the unproven, with a long amateur record. He was 11-0 coming into this fight. The Cuban boxer coming in to take on the Marauder in David Benavidez in a incredible fucking fight. 12-round war. These dudes were in the pocket, forehead to forehead, throwing salvos of punching combinations at each other. David Benavidez was doing these guard manipulations where they're standing forehead to forehead and he'll rip the guard and then throw a big hook behind it. 3, 4, 5 punch combinations starting to the body, up to the head, and then ending back to the body. Fucking dude. We kind of talked about this pre-recording, and I don't watch as much boxing as I watch MMA, but I watch the boxing matches that matter. Pitbull Cruz also had a good fight on this card, an incredible fight. But these dudes beat the fuck out of each other, man.
Yeah.
For 36 minutes.
I didn't watch the entirety of the fight. I did catch some of the highlights. I saw the aftermath, we'll say. Benavidez has not looked like that in any recent fight that I can think of. You know, like
this was his toughest test up to this point, in my opinion.
Yeah,
like
no, I agree.
Because usually this would have killed people. By the way, Morrell is, and if you watch any David Morrell fights pre this fight, and then you watch this fight, you would literally think it's two different guys, because he's much more of a slick, with heavy hands, but like a real slick puncher with weird hooks and Cuban style footwork, really defensively sound, has a good jab, but really likes to, throw combinations and will throw an array of punches. But like, he fought David Benavidez's fight. This fight was a dick measuring contest. Like, so much of this fight was these dudes fucking forehead to forehead, squared up in the pocket, just literally like, you know how in Muay Thai where like you go, I go, you go, I go.
Oh yeah.
You got, like, that's how this fight was. It was literally just a dick measuring competition. It was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
You should go at some point. I know you said you've been busy. Squeeze out some time and watch this. You just fast forward through the.
No, that's 100% the intention. Yeah, I'm like you. I watch far more MMA than I do boxing, but I do try to catch the fights that I would say that you put it extremely well. The fights that matter. So, no, that is what I've got on my to-do list. Hopefully, sometime soon.
Just an incredible war. The fight was really close, even though there were some wide scorecards for Benavidez. Some people had it like a draw. I think it was in the 11th round. David Morrell dropped David Benavidez only for the second time in his career. Morrell was never dropped in this fight. I think Morrell could win a fight against David Benavidez if he just like fought a David Morrell fight and not a David Benavidez fight. Because David Benavidez is going to have that fight with every fucking person that lets him, because that's the fight he wants to have. He's such a marauder. He's got better defense in the pocket, but he got his bell rung a ton in this fight. But man, it's like, I think the best way to define his style is just chopping wood.
Yeah. No, he had said heading into the fight that it was going to be the body work that was the difference, and son of a bitch, that was 100% the difference.
David Benavidez also said that David Morrell was the hardest puncher he's ever been hit by.
Ooh, that part I did not hear.
And Morrell landed a ton on. I mean, both of these dudes, like, if you just watch this fight back and don't score it round by round, and I ask you, who do you think won the majority of that fight, you're gonna go, I can tell you who lost both of them, because they both beat the fucking shit out of each other.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of I just, I hate to go on a dark note, but like, when you watch so much MMA, and I kind of said this a little bit before we started recording, but when you watch so much MMA, you see like the Glover Teixeira versus Anthony Smith fight, where like he's eating a ton of pretty violent ground and pound, handing his teeth to the ref, and you're like, okay, stop this. This is getting bad. These two dudes just like 10x'd that shit. Like, the amount of damage that these dudes both accrued and gave and received, like, there was just so much heavy punishment from both guys. It was an awesome fight. The body work for David Benavidez was there, but so was the body work for Morrell. David Benavidez landing like 48% of his power punches is incredible, but he also only throws power punches. Again, I'm not a major boxing head, but this was just an incredible fight. Go catch it. I think you will. I mean,
no, like I said, I caught some of the highlights. I saw some of the numbers, and that was the main reason that I was like, oh yeah, no, Benavidez was right. It was 100% the body. I think towards the end, again, like I said, only highlights, but I think Benavidez got a little bit full of himself and he got caught towards the end. That's my interpretation. I'll have to watch the full thing to fully verify that. But I don't know if Benavidez is going to get his wish to face Canelo next, but I do hope that Morrell, this is going to put him down a few notches. I hope that he makes his way up back soon because I think Morrell's a hell of a lot of fun.
Great fighter. This kind of sets. Benavidez said he's never going back down to where Canelo is adamant about fighting. I don't think Canelo wants to fight him.
I don't think he does either.
Recently this week, someone came out and basically said that, Canelo was offered, David Benavidez and his team came out, and said that Canelo was offered like 60 million to fight them. David Benavidez was offered like 10 or 6 or something like that. After he paid his team, he would have pocketed 4, and Canelo still turned it down. But this does set him up to fight the winner of the rematch between Bivol and Beterbiev. And sign me the fuck up for that.
No, I'm with you. But he wants Canelo so damn bad that I'm hoping that he doesn't just get focused on that. You get what I'm saying? Like, you only got so long in this business. So
Bivol beat Canelo.
He did.
Beat him up pretty bad.
But he doesn't have that name. And I hate to say it, but that means so much more. Like, you know as well as I do that people are going to put a hell of a lot more stock in somebody beating Conor McGregor than they would seeing them beat Islam at this point.
Sure.
And both me and you know damn well. Yeah. We both know damn well what one would mean more.
Bright. I mean, the future is bright for David Benavidez and David Morrell too. Both of them. I mean, I just need to be making sure I watch every David Benavidez fight live moving forward. All right, that was the first segment of the show. Out with the old. We have a topic that's kind of pretty hot, and it's forcing us to talk about it. We're not going to talk about Conor McGregor spitting. We're not going to talk about Bryce Mitchell. Middle segment of the show, what's hot? We're going to be talking about the future of men's middleweight, a weird division that has been kind of a slog at some points, interesting at other points, really interesting at other points, and just a downright weird division because it's between the most skilled guys and then the not as skilled guys. So kind of just a weird, in a weird spot. And there's a lot of middleweight fights coming up. We've had a lot of middleweight fights, a lot of title eliminators and really meaningful ones. Legends getting knocked off. Got a championship fight this weekend. There's
a headliner next weekend as well. It may be an Apex card, but that's 3 consecutive weeks headlining a UFC card. In another month, there's another middleweight contest headlining. So no, there's a lot of movement within the division, and give it a month or so, or a little more than a month, and it could look entirely different from what it looked at the end of last month.
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the Jared Cannonier and the Hobocop fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm also really curious to see what happens in that Brendan Allen and Anthony Hernandez fight. Because we've got guys that are, I'm not going to call someone like Brendan Allen a title challenger, but he's definitely in the picture. Kind of a little bit out of it now that after that Imavov loss, but he's still like in the picture, and wins over him matter. And he's kind of, I'm not going to call him the old guard, but he's kind of like a transition point guy for the division, in my opinion. Like, he's not old and he's not new either.
He's sliding into the role that Jack Hermanson had for a long time. That's what it seems like.
Yep, totally. Like the tough test dude that, like, if you're good, you're gonna beat him, but if not, he'll have a real good fight with you. So I'm curious to see like where Fluffy's at, because this has also been like a strikers division,
mm-hmm.
and we got dudes like DDP that will fucking lean on the wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
We got dudes like Fluffy Hernandez that will literally turn you into a pretzel if you let them. Dudes like Hobocop that are violent punchers that also will lean on their wrestling and grappling. I'm not going to ask you for picks, but
no,
with all of these young dudes coming up, like how long until people like Izzy are out of the title picture completely?
If we're being honest, that loss to Imavov might have completely knocked him out, but I don't know. The UFC loves those old guards like that.
Totally.
If Izzy comes back in, if he comes back and wins one fight, they'll probably throw him right back into the picture.
All he has to do is kill someone in the top 7 of the division,
yeah,
and he's a phone call away.
Thing is, do we want him fighting somebody in the top 7, or do we? Anyway, that's for anyway.
But that's part of it. Totally.
Yeah. But no. Crap. There's so many questions. You know, like you said, with Fluffy, is he gonna? I think that Allen is easily his toughest test because Allen's the superior striker between the two. We all know that, but Fluffy just pushes such an insane pace. And he will do everything within his power to break Allen mentally. And Allen has definitely gotten mentally tougher over the years. You know, that's something that he has worked on because I remember that he let Strickland get into his head. I guess that fight was like 4 or 5 years ago. I can't remember exactly, but he let Strickland get into his head, and I think that cost him the loss. I haven't seen Allen get mentally.
Dude, his last fight with Imavov. His last fight with Imavov, like he won the whole first round with super dominant wrestling, and in the second round, Imavov defended takedowns, and Brendan Allen just he fell off a cliff, got terribly gassed, and got shit kicked.
And that's what I was going to mention was, you know, he's gotten better with regards to that, but that loss to Imavov was also one of those. Okay, so he hasn't completely wiped that clean, and with Fluffy's not the athlete that Imavov is. He's not as physically gifted, doesn't hit as hard, all that fun stuff, but he does go at you harder than what Imavov does. Now, Allen's a skilled grappler. Perhaps he can catch Fluffy in something, you know, it's not like Fluffy's impervious, but yeah, no, that's what makes that fight so damn fun. And then, like you said, Hobocop and Cannonier. Cannonier, we're about to find out if he's still got something left. You know, he's an old man at this point, and you know, you just think about the violent possibilities between the two of them because Cannonier, he may still be the hardest hitter within the division, but if he isn't, Hobocop is one of those challengers to take that title. You know,
yeah, and you still got dudes that are out there like Roman Dolidze and Marvin Vettori are rematching, headlining in a month.
You heard the story about that, right?
Where Marvin was like, "Oh, I thought it was Roman Kopylov. Oh well, lol."
Yeah, no,
he's just funny though. I think he just says shit.
I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Marvin. Like that is the most Marvin Vettori thing ever. To be honest with you, though, it really is the most middleweight thing ever too. You know, Marvin Vettori is like the perfect encapsulation of the middleweight division. I love that guy.
Remember when he fought Paulo Costa, and Paulo Costa was like, I'm not gonna make 185. I'll just fight you at 205. And Marvin Vettori's like, fuck you, okay?
Yeah.
And he won. He kind of beat the shit out of Costa.
No, exactly. That was one of those things that just totally cemented me. Is like, you know what? Marvin Vettori is the ultimate meathead. I love this guy. I can't root against him.
But these middleweight is starting to become a division where you kind of, you know,
you can't stumble into success anymore.
Yeah, like we can't we're the dudes that put their shorts on backward are still headlining cards, but like it's getting harder to make fun of them. Like it's like, oh well, Nassourdine Imavov isn't a big doofus. Do I agree with everything that Sean Strickland says? No. Do I think he has a pretty cerebral approach to MMA? Yeah, I do. Same with DDP.
And then you got
same as
Kyle Ohio out there as well.
Yeah,
you know? He's not the funnest to watch, but son of a bitch, he is an incredibly smart fighter. Like he has barely taken any damage as he has stormed his way up.
He may be the most cerebral dude in the top 15.
Yep.
Like when it comes to a dude that's like learning tactics, watching MMA, and devising proper game plans, he might be the best dude in that division. Middleweight's fucking good right now. It's kind of weird. Is it still a bunch of weird dudes that have, I don't want to call their games janky because that's disrespectful, but like weird ass games? Like Sean Strickland's got a weird ass game. DDP's got a weird ass game. Imavov has a pretty kind of normal MMA game for 2025. But we still got kind of, you know, the wonky Roman Dolidze dudes out there, but it's getting better. And I haven't been excited about middleweight like this in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that like the next 4 years of middleweight could be really fun.
Oh yeah. No, to see where middleweight was, we'll say a decade ago, and you had guys that it was really hard to point at what they did exceedingly well. You know, guys like Ed Herman populating the division and just hanging around forever. You know, and don't get me wrong, I got some love for Ed Herman, but
Sam Alvey.
Hell, yeah, no, exactly. He won like 4 in a row or something like that, knocking out every opponent and stuff like that. Those guys, you're not finding them hanging around in the division anymore. I mean, some of them are getting a cup of coffee, you know, like some way, somehow Dylan Budka's still around, but it's not like he's really found any success. Whereas at this point, yeah, you know, like we just listed off a bunch of them: Bahayo, Allen, Cannonier, Hernandez. You know, Cannonier's an old guard as well. I shouldn't have said him as in terms of coming up, but
even Joe Pyfer, though. Like dudes like Joe
Pyfer
are out there. Yeah, he might be losing fights to Jack Hermanson, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to like destroy the next 3 dudes he fights. But in fall of 2025, like we could be looking at like Hobocop versus Fluffy Hernandez, and then the winner of that fight is in a title eliminator.
Yeah.
Like we could totally be looking at, you know, if Hobocop goes out there and beats Cannonier and Fluffy Hernandez goes out there and beats Brendan Allen, those 2 dudes are probably going to get matched up, and they'll be, you know, barking for a title fight and looking to kind of put themselves in that picture. You know, they'll be calling out the Kaya Bahayos and stuff like that. It's the division's fun again, and there's a bunch of dudes that have weird different games that are all, you know, competing, and it's we love Marvin Vettori, but killers there now.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like at one point, Vettori was considered to be probably one of the better athletes in the division, and not anymore. You know, I mean,
no,
he's still a dude, bro, musclehead, but compare him to Chimaev or Imavov, nah,
yeah,
he's not on their level.
And I didn't even speak a ton on Chimaev. Like I'm just granting Chimaev as like probably like the most dangerous dude. Khamzat Chimaev is like one of the most dangerous dudes on the whole entire roster. Like if you fight him, like you are in extreme danger.
Yeah, no, he's just that mythical creature that's always on the sidelines, you know, and because we don't see him that often, we tend to start forgetting how good he is. And then he comes in and reminds us exactly what he can do. And it's like, son of a bitch, why can't I see that guy fight more?
Yeah, he shows up to every fight with an RPG. Like, yeah, that's Khamzat. Like he's dangerous. Really interesting handful of contenders and dudes that are fighting their way into contendership that are just like right on the outside there, and you know, 1 or 2 fights away from title eliminators, and dudes that have fun games to watch. And that's the most important thing: is, are these people fun to watch? Most of the names we mentioned that we've got good things to say about are all really fucking cool to watch. Moving on to the final segment of the show, and with the new, we've got UFC 312, a card in Australia. Not the strongest Australian card. A lot of talent from the Oceanic region. It's headlined by 2 good fights, though. And we do have the older Taporia brother debuting, facing a guy named with the last name of Thickness. It's not Norma
No.
Dumont that he's fighting. There's some okay cards on okay fights on the undercard. I can't make a stupid joke and then I get tripped up on my words after like a dummy.
It was
got,
totally
like,
appropriate though, and we all love Norma Dumont. So
I mean, I thought of Norma Dumont and I immediately got tripped up on my words.
exactly.
We're going to talk about Zhang Weili taking on Tatiana Suarez. That's the co-main event of UFC 312. Let me give you the odds to this fight. Odds on this fight, they're basically dead even now. Zhang Weili is a plus 105, plus 102 dog, but you can kind of find even money. It's a dead pick 'em right now. Kind of incredible, if you ask me, for that betting line being a dead pick'em. Tatiana Suarez is a girl that had a freaking absolute shit ton of hype getting into the UFC. I mean, she only had 3 pro fights. Yeah, she was on the Ultimate Fighter, but she really only had 3 pro fights before getting into the UFC. In the UFC, she beat Bobby Brundage. She beat Viviane Pereira. She beat Alexa Grasso, which is a good win. Subbed her out. TKO'd Carla Esparza, beat Nina Nunes, and then went away for 4 whole years. Tatiana Suarez, do you know the date of her last fight?
I know it was 2023. I can't give you an exact date, but I'll say September 23. Is that about it?
Really close. August 5th of 2023, she defeated Jessica Andrade via guillotine choke. Prior to that, she defeated Montana De La Rosa via guillotine choke. That was in February of 2023. So I'm not ready to do the math right now, but we're going to say about almost 2 years.
18 months.
18 months?
18 months.
Like, I didn't want to start doing ones of these. Plus, I've got my phone in my hand. And I can't count on my toes if I'm missing one. I'm just kidding. I'm not missing a toe. Frostbite. It was fucking cold out there today. I went on a hike. I'm going to do a quick story. I went on a hike and did a little bit of fishing on my lunch break today. Work from home. Dude, it was 22 degrees, but it was blowing like 15 miles an hour. So with the wind chill, it was like 10, 12 degrees. I don't know what I was doing out there. My boogers were freezing to the side of my face. Like my nose was running and then the wind was blowing them to the side of my face. When I got into the car, I sat down and I looked in the rear view and I'm like, what's on my face? And it's just like snot that was running out of my nose, but the wind was blowing so hard, it was blowing it to my face and freezing it. It's terrible. Back to this fight. Tatiana Suarez, I'm really surprised the UFC has called on her for a title fight. I'm really surprised the UFC did not try to make like Zhang Weili versus Valentina Shevchenko for this card as the co-main event, which I think would have been a much more reasonable fight. I'm really shocked by the betting odds because Tatiana Suarez, people were calling her the Khabib of the division. I don't believe that. She's a great wrestler. She's been wrestling since she was 3 years old, has tons of wrestling accolades, but even more than wrestling accolades, she has injuries, and not just injuries, illnesses, and like chronic illnesses where, everyone knows the story. She's survived cancer. But why she's been out this long is more medical issues. She was supposed to fight Vina Jandiroba, and that fight fell apart due to her pulling out. I can't even recall someone in the modern UFC history that's a challenger with no title fights ever coming into a title fight off of this long of a layoff. She's fought in 18 months and she's a title challenger.
No.
And it's not like, it's not like someone like John Jones, who's a long reigning champion that goes away for 2 years and comes back into a title fight. This isn't like that.
No. And the key that you said in there for me is the fact that somebody who hasn't been a champion, because I think we can all agree that the only person who can rival Suarez in terms of bad luck with injuries and illnesses and all that fun stuff, essentially wiping out their prime, is Dominic Cruz. But he was fortunate to become a champion before the string of bad luck hit, and he always was able to fall back on that and say, no, I was champion. Get me back in there. So in that sense, yeah, you're right. I can't think of somebody who's had that type of a history being put in after that type of a layoff. But I think part of it is that there just doesn't seem to be anybody else who really seems like a true threat to Zhang Weili.
Weili Zhang?
Zhang Weili.
And no, and that's why I mentioned Shevchenko, because Shevchenko's done a shit ton of work in her division.
Mm-hmm.
And I think moving up to fight Shevchenko at 125 could have, brought some eyes up to 125, shot some juice into women's MMA that needs a bunch of juice. Like this fight, I'm still not even, Tatiana Suarez for me is one of those fighters. I trust her less than Khamzat Chimaev by a long shot. I mean, and we talked about Chimaev kind of not being the most trustworthy dude. I mean, if you gave me a poker chip and you said, Devin, who's going to fight for a title and defend it once? I'm putting that poker chip. I'm putting that chip on Khamzat. X's and O's of this fight. We're going to talk about Zhang Weili. She is a dude. She is a girl that is, she is a dude. You know what? She can be whatever she wants to be. She's Zhang Weili.
Dude, good burger, man. I'm a dude. He's a dude. She's a dude. We're all dudes.
Zhang Weili could probably kick my ass too. So I'm going to let, whatever you want me to call you, Zhang. She's an incredible athlete. She's a really well-rounded fighter. Comes from like an old school martial arts background, but has really transitioned well into MMA. She's got a plethora of submissions prior to the UFC. She's got like a killer arm bar. She's got good grappling, good boxing, good in the clinch, good grappling. She's really just, she's become a super well-rounded fighter. She's definitely, taken a lot of damage in the UFC, but she's been a fighter that's been, one thing I really appreciate about Zhang Weili, especially in women's MMA, where she knows, hey, I am better at you here in this place. This is where this fight's going to take place. Like, I'm not going to go out here and strike with Yan Xiaonan, even though I could probably contend with her there. I'm just going to turn her into a pretzel. Same thing with Amanda Lemos. This fight with Suarez is kind of the inverse of those fights, where she probably doesn't want to scramble with Tatiana Suarez too much. But Weili's a killer everywhere. Like she's a hell of a kickboxer. Look at her wars with Joanna Jędrzejczyk and then stopping her with that incredible spinning back fist. Weili's got good kicks to the body, leg kicks to the head, good boxing. Look at the way she fucking killed Jessica Andrade in the clinch when she won the title. I really struggle to find a place where I'm super confident Tatiana Suarez can win 5 rounds of an MMA fight against Zhang Weili. And I know I got here really quick.
So you're picking Zhang?
I'm picking Zhang Weili to win. Give me your breakdown on who you think's going to win, and I'm going to tell you how Zhang Weili's going to win.
I was going to say, okay. Weili at this point is challenging Joanna Jędrzejczyk's legacy as the most dominant strawweight champion. Joanna had that period where she was just decimating everybody, and doing so with a devious smile. That made her so many people's favorite female fighter. I have a friend who's a casual, and just he took pure delight in how vicious she was with it, that she automatically became his favorite fighter, like male or female. Awesome. She was it for him. Yeah.
She probably has like one of the best fights in MMA that not enough people talk about, but Zhang Weili versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk,
yes,
their first fight, like dude, you could watch that fight 20 times and score it different every time.
Yep. No, the first time I scored it for Joanna. The second time I watched it, I scored it for Weili, and then the third time, Joanna again. I find it kind of funny that you said that, just because that is what happened with me pretty much. Anyway, and like you said, Weili doesn't really have a major weakness. I think she got caught by Rose in their first fight, and I think that she kind of had a little bit of a mental block, and Weili did not seem to be at her best in the rematch. And that accounts for her 2 UFC losses, both of them to Rose Namajunas.
And the second one was by a hair.
Yep.
That second fight with Rose could have gone either way as well.
Nah. Yeah. Since then, she's been dominant. The rematch with Joanna, she just blew through Joanna, blew through Carla as far as to regain the belt. The fights with Amanda Lemos and Yan Xiaonan, both of them went 5 rounds, but outside of a small window with the Yan, she just basically did whatever the hell she wanted with them. But the thing that I question is whether or not that will matter if Suarez can keep her on her back. Because there is one thing that Suarez does, and she does it very well, and that is wrestle her ass off. You are 100% right in the sense that no, Suarez is not proven to be able to go 5 rounds. We have seen signs of her tiring in terms of going just 3 rounds. But
I did my tape study for this.
Oh, I know.
I've got my receipts. I watched that. I watched that Tatiana Suarez fight last night against Nina Ansaroff, and
yes, and that's what I was going to say.
She started after 2 rounds of like medium pace, and this is when she was younger, in her prime, less injuries, medium pace against Nina Ansaroff. Started to gas real bad, and started getting pieced up really bad. If you give that moment to Zhang Weili, you're getting absolutely finished. Montana De La Rosa really struggled to take Montana De La Rosa down. Really struggled, and actually had to jump guillotine in the second round because she really couldn't get much control or much takedowns off. And Jessica Andrade, I don't think a win over Jessica Andrade at that moment when she was on that bad losing streak, that doesn't hold much weight for me. I definitely don't think it's the same Jessica Andrade as Zhang Weili knocked out for the title.
No.
And a very different performance. So I saw a picture of Tatiana Suarez. I sent it to you. She looks, her body doesn't look like she's in the best shape. You can count on Zhang Weili to show up. Pound for pound, she's probably one of the strongest fighters on the roster, men included. Like, have you seen this? Like, have you seen her workout videos? Her picking up Francis Ngannou and shit. Like, do you think there's how many men's flyweights are going to pick up Francis Ngannou? I'd say some of them could, maybe not all of them. Like, Zhang Weili picked this. Like she's just I think Zhang Weili may spend the first 2 rounds of this fight on the ground, on her back. But as long as she doesn't get finished in the first 2 rounds, she's willingly. Zhang Weili is just willingly violent for 5 rounds. And if this becomes a fight where Tatiana Suarez gets stuck on the feet for more than 2 minutes, she's fucked. I've never seen her show me anything that says otherwise.
Yeah. And
I could be totally wrong.
No. Here's the thing. I do not disagree with anything that you've said. You said that you watched the film. I'm guessing I probably didn't watch quite as much as you, but I did watch some, and everything you said is 100% true. I do not know that Suarez can go 5 rounds. I don't know if she's going to be able to go 3 rounds with this. I do not believe that she is going to have any significant success on the feet. She might catch Weili with a punch here or 2 that just kind of catches her, but is she going to put her out? No. She does not have the explosiveness of a Rose Namajunas. I fully acknowledge that. On paper, everything says to me that Weili wins. I 100% agree with you there. But for whatever reason, like sometimes you get feelings in your gut and you're trying to decipher what it is. And in my gut, it says, okay, Suarez has the wrestling. She can use that. She's going to go with that nonstop. And there's also the intangible of what she has overcome. And I think for Suarez, this is her one shot. And there's that phrase, I may not be as good as I once was, but I'm as good as once as I ever was. And I think that she can pull off a Dominic Cruz type performance. I think that she can be Kobe Bryant in his last game with the Lakers when he scored 60 points, even though he was broken down and beaten. Now, believe me, it's not smart to predict that type of thing. I totally get that. 100% get that. But to me, I think Tatiana's looking at this as, this is my shot. I'm taking it. I am throwing absolutely everything into this. And I think that she can, if there's anybody that's going to ground Weili into the ground with wrestling, it's Tatiana. I'm taking a risk by saying that, because I know on paper everything says Weili, but all the intangibles in my mind say Tatiana.
I'm going to agree with you. I do think it's probably going to look like the Dominic Cruz performance for Tatiana. But her only problem is Zhang Weili is going to be Cody Garbrandt.
Which version of Garbrandt?
The one that beat him.
Yeah. The thing is, at this point, Cruz is ancient, but I think he'd still be beating the modern day version of Garbrandt.
Zhang Weili might beat the modern version of Cody Garbrandt. I'm not even kidding.
No, I get it. I get it.
Oh shit, that'd be so funny. That'd be so funny. Zhang Weili TKO's Cody Garbrandt. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, we're split. I don't believe in Tatiana Suarez until I see her do something that I haven't seen her do. And I just think Zhang Weili is she's getting older. She's taking damage. She may be a bit slower, but I think in this fight, I think the person that makes her pay for getting older is going to be a striker, because she's been hurt and knocked out before. Yeah. I just don't think she's just such a physical hoss. I just trust her survivability on the ground. And I trust her long tenure as a champion, and I trust her cardio. I don't know.
I shouldn't, like I said, on paper, I should not be picking Tatiana, but you can't always go with what's on paper. So,
and Tatiana Suarez is totally capable of, getting her 10 takedowns all defended, but then jumping on like an arm in guillotine and just squeezing her head off. She's totally, and that's her anomaly.
And part of this that I'm, part of the reason why I am picking it this way is if I felt both of them were completely healthy, both of them in their prime, I do believe that a prime version of Suarez beats a prime version of Weili, and that's a close fight, I think, but that's also something that we're never going to see, I don't think, unfortunately, because I think Tatiana was robbed of that. But yeah,
what's going to probably happen this weekend, or what in the perfect world, what I would love to see happen is Zhang Weili to win this fight, and then Tatiana Suarez to stay active and fight like Mackenzie Dern. I know. In a perfect world, Tatiana Suarez would stay active. Like, that's a lot of the shit's not her fault, man. You can't hold her.
No, you can't. And like, maybe there's another part of me that's hoping that Tatiana wins, because I think if she loses this, I think she retires.
Oh, dude. In my opinion, humbly, she's getting a gifted title shot.
Yep.
She
earned it. What? She earned it 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember how much exactly. And then that neck injury just kind of derailed things. So yeah, I don't disagree. It's a gift, but it's a gift that she had earned several years ago.
It's like she's holding on to, like, you ever get like gifted a bond as a kid?
Oh yeah.
Like your grandpa gives you like $100 bond, and like now she's finally cashing in her bond.
Yeah.
Moving on to the main event of UFC 312, we have a rematch. We have Dricus du Plessis taking on Sean Strickland in their rematch. Odds on this fight. I said rematch twice. Sorry about that. Odds on this fight. Dricus du Plessis is kind of a bigger favorite than I expected. Minus 205. Strickland's coming back at a plus 175 dog here. I was just about to say this is a real interesting fight, but it's actually really not.
We've seen it before.
Yeah, I'm going to be super surprised if it looks any different. And I actually think I remember vividly after this fight putting into the Sherdog Select that I don't think Sean Strickland fought the best game plan he could have, and I think Dricus du Plessis fought the best fight he could against Strickland. These guys are like the two weirdest dudes in the division with like the weirdest games too. Like Sean Strickland has this like Sean Strickland's game is kind of incredible because like nobody taught him anything. Like I don't think I'm wrong by saying that. Like I've like you see
what
like,
he does shouldn't work, but it does.
I've never seen him with a striking coach. Have you ever seen him with a striking coach?
I've seen him hanging out with Chris Curtis. Does that count?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I don't think DDP has a striking coach either, bro. Like, and that's what's fucking awesome about this fight, honestly. Because like DDP's just got like a strength training program and a cardio program. And then like he just like shows up to DDP is the type of dude that like when he's done with MMA, he's gonna be doing all of those like grappling tournaments and fucking wrecking the like purist jujitsu dudes. Like he's gonna show up to those tournaments and just like fuck guys up for the rest of his life, just because he's like an athletic boss. Going into this fight, I think this should just be dead pick 'em odds because I don't know what Sean Strickland showed me against Paulo Costa, and I don't think DDP showed me anything against Izzy that makes me think this fight's going to be different. Like I didn't see a new wrinkle, and I don't see. I don't know. Did they show you anything in their last two wins leading up to this rematch that makes them any different for you?
No. Strickland is oh god. I'm trying to think of the right way to put it because okay,
You didn't have to hear him talk. You'd think it was you'd think he was a lot more cool.
Well, with him talking, he's a troll. We absolutely know that. You know, we were talking beforehand that he doesn't actually believe everything he says, but he says it because he knows it'll get him attention and it'll get his we'll call it cult following fired up. You know, because he says a lot of things that it's out there. We'll just put it that way. But again, like I said, I don't think he believes a lot of that.
He's not Jamal Hill fighting with fans in the comments. Like,
sorry,
you know, dude, did you see that? I think I sent it to you. The thumbs down. Someone just like turned it around and made it. That shit made me laugh. I'm like, that's mean, but really funny.
But yeah, with Strickland, he knows how to he can get caught in autopilot. You know, he can put things on cruise control and he's just doing the same thing. And it's like, buddy, you need to step on the gas. And I think he did not do that against du Plessis. And I think that cost him ultimately. Because, you know, that was his first title defense. It wasn't a great fight. It wasn't a bad fight, but it was just kind of there and it was controversial. And if, you know, I don't want to say that he didn't learn anything from that, but I don't know. Yeah, no, I was going to say he did step on the gas against Costa more, but I think it's also because
someone still scored that whole fucking fight for Paulo Costa, which is a huge like red flag. Which is, that it's like Helen Keller freaking scored that fight.
Yeah, no kidding. But
that's part of Strickland's problem. That's part of Strickland's problem, though.
Costa wilted. You know, like Strickland was basically able to do whatever the hell he wanted. So, yeah, so he saw him fading, and so he stepped on the gas. Dricus is not going to fade.
No.
You know, he knocked Adesanya silly early, and Izzy was out of it from that point. You know, if Strickland sees that he's hurt you or that you're wilting or whatever, he will step on the gas. But with Dricus, Izzy put it best when he said that Dricus is the absolute best shit fighter probably ever.
Oh, dude,
You
I've been
know?
saying that for at least a year now. Where like he's literally the
Yeah,
best worst fighter ever.
exactly. And the thing is I think
He's not a
everybody's
martial
kind of
artist though. He's a fighter, and that's what
at
it
this
is.
at this point everybody's hip to it too, though.
Yeah.
So do I see Strickland unless he knows that Dricus is absolutely doing the chicken dance or something like that? I don't see him stepping on the gas to go against him, because Duplessis proven that he can catch you with something from out of left field that you're not expecting, just because he's the absolute best shit fighter ever. So,
Someone will make DDP pay, like some super sharp counterpuncher, and it might be when he goes to 205. Say he gets a couple wins at 185, and Alex Pereira's holding the title up there. You know, a sharp counterpuncher may absolutely kill DDP. Roberto Soldic did it to him, but that's also not Sean Strickland. There was an interview that Sean Strickland did this week leading up to the fight where he said that he kind of understood that he never watches tape, but Eric Nixick forced him to watch this fight, and he has a very good understanding of where he went wrong, where he just didn't do enough. So it seems like he finally understands that he does need to do more, because offensively, like if you and I are fighting, and you have a hammer and I have a broomstick, but I just keep jabbing you in the face with that broomstick and never let you get close with the hammer. Well, if I can just hit you with the broomstick every time, why not do it 10 times? Why only do it 5? And that's kind of Sean Strickland's thing, where it's like, dude, you've got all the tools to actually piece up DDP. Like, you're a real nip tuck, conservative, defensive puncher. You're responsible enough, especially against a dude that throws big winging shots like DDP. You've got good enough vision to stay responsible, but it's just Sean Strickland, like he has to sometimes be encouraged to do more.
Yes.
And sometimes being encouraged to do more means he feels like he's not winning by as much as he thinks he is, and that's a problem against DDP, because DDP is just such a wild card, man. Like he is not a technical fighter, but one place he is really technical is his top game, his guard passing, and his ground and pound. That's the best thing he does. Like he'll hit toesy passes on people. Like look what he did to Robert Whittaker. He fucking crushed him on the ground. And look what he did to Izzy the second he took him down. It's so weird, dude. I watched that whole finishing sequence like 100 times, and I watched it just last night prepping, and like Izzy points to the ground. That's like the weird Max Holloway. Poor Izzy too, man. The dude like did the Alex Pereira like get back to Mark Goddard and like got knocked out himself. And then in this fight, he like did the point down like Holloway and got fucking. But like the finishing sequence, it literally looks like it's happening in slow motion.
Yeah.
Like the knockdowns, the way that Izzy's trying to like literally turns his back to DDP, and DDP's just throwing these big winging hooks. Like he was chasing Robert Whittaker with punches too. Like some back foot counter punch is going to make him pay, but I don't know if it's Strickland. I don't think Strickland has that counter punching ability. You saw him in the 5th round of this fight. Strickland will go from like a really tight boxer, throwing clean shots, to literally like elbow extended winging hooks. DDP could also knock Strickland the fuck out. Because he's totally powerful enough, and the way that he closes distance and covers range, like he overswings, he will fight out of both stances. He also has really good kicking game too, and that's another thing that's super slept on. He has good body kicks, but Strickland has a good kicking game too. His teep kicks, his can't even say it. Kick checking is really incredible. His ability to kind of stay on the front foot, check the kicks, stay defensively sound, and land offense. I think it's a really cool game. I don't agree with the odds in this fight.
No.
I'm gonna pick Sean Strickland to win. Because I don't think DDP can win the exact same fight again. Like, I think if DDP wins this fight, he has to like win this fight in a DDP ass way, where like the fight's getting weird and he clubs Strickland with something weird that he doesn't see coming, and then like Strickland goes to the ground and you know gets like TKO'd via ground and pound, or like gets hit with like a rear naked choke. I could totally see that happening in a Dricus win. But in this division at 185, like a tit for tat kickboxing match, I don't know how many dudes can go out there and like I can confidently pick against Sean Strickland to do that. Like if he just ups his volume, because I think he won the first fight. Like I watched it twice and I scored it for Strickland both times, and I think that he left the door open, and I think DDP did everything he could in that fight. He mixed in the takedowns. Strickland was able to defend the takedowns. Could DDP come in and come with a really heavy grappling game? He might, but I don't know if he could do that for 5 rounds. We've seen DDP look pretty good for 5 rounds. We know he can fight late into fights. Look what he did to Adesanya in the 4th round. But I'm going to pick Strickland as a 2-1 underdog, apparently. Just, I don't know. The fight's really close. And in a really close fight, and if you're a betting man, like in a fight that's this close, just bet the underdog. Someone gave me $100 to bet on this fight, I would bet it on Strickland just based on the return, the risk and return. Who do you got?
I'm going the opposite with you on this one, so going the opposite on both of them. But
left shit to talk about.
The thing is you know, you couldn't have put it any better when you said that, you know, this is a very close fight. Like I didn't react when you read the odds at the beginning because I listened to Keith and Ben's show, and that was where I got shocked at the odds at that point. It was like, what? But yeah. Because no, this is very much
copying their homework.
Dude, you listen to their show too. Anyway,
clearly not up to that point. But yes, I love their show.
Yeah. But the big difference between the two, Strickland is a round winner, and du Plessis is a moment winner. He can steal.
You nailed it.
He can steal around with a moment, but for the most part, I think that Strickland, you know, like if this goes to decision, I do believe Strickland wins it this time. But du Plessis, I think he was a little bit gun shy in the first fight. He seemed a little bit cowed more than usual. And I think it was because he was fighting for the title. I don't think it was who he was in the cage with. I think it was just the moment. And I think that winning the title was a big relief because I did not see any sign of that when he was fighting Izzy. He looked like the calm and relaxed DDP that we all know.
He's a confident fighter, man.
No,
that's
exactly.
Another thing. Like he knows how to win fights, and he knows like he's that dude where like if you leave the door, like if you just leave it cracked, you leave it fucking cracked. He's kicking that bitch in. So your pick is DDP to win in a DDP way. Right.
Yes, because I do believe that if Strickland ups his volume, if he, you know, pushes the pace more, he's going to open himself up for DDP to take advantage of those types of situations. So I expect the, you know, DDP to be the one to win again, but I do expect this fight to be a little bit more exciting, and I do expect a finish.
How so?
Oh boy. Strickland's kind of a hard one to put out, so I'll say that it's a club and sub, 3rd or 4th round.
Cool. I got Strickland by decision. I think Strickland will actually. I think he's if he. one thing that doesn't get said enough about Strickland is I do think he actually has a lot more fight IQ than anybody realizes. Like if you listen to his interview with Brett Okamoto, he's talking about how things become a chess match. Like he understands risk assessment really well. Understanding risk assessment also means that sometimes you have to understand when you need to take more risks. So I think he's going to come out more willing to take risks. Sean Strickland also knows this is his last opportunity to fight for a title, to where if DDP loses this fight for some reason, that third fight's always there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Strickland is, you know, I think he is in a situation, he's much more of a make it or break it situation when it comes to the title picture. So I think that's going to force him to, you know, put more offense out there. But you're assuming that Strickland's uptick of offense means DDP is going to meet him with that force and also catch him with something. So that's, man, dude, tune into every DDP fight. Like anyone that listens to this, like it's DDP. Like if you don't want to spend $80 on this pay-per-view, I don't
blame you one bit. Don't blame you.
But like if you're listening to this show, I also assume that you could find a way to watch this fight. Watch the DDP fight. Like DDP is always good fun. And a guy like this, there's no way he's going to be doing this forever. Like this isn't some, I mean, I could be wrong, but DDP is not going to go on some Anderson Silva title run. Like this is just, you know, God, I hope we get Yuri Prohaska versus DDP at some point in our lives.
That would be a lot of fun.
He's so fucking cool. That's the show, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, dude, I always enjoy coming on here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for listening, guys, and enjoy the fights.